What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cinema Royale.
It's a new day.
And
That's
I
what I thought
see
we were going to play,
levels for
right? Is that what
Travis.
we were going to play? I thought is that the
Oh,
music we came into? We came into
I thought you had said you wanted me to play bagpipes like Oh Johnny
to
Boy, or
Wycliffe,
to be
huh?
very sad for today to play Johnny Boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Danny Boy. I mean, oh, Danny Boy. There you
I'm sure that's playing somewhere,
go.
some with someone who was upset,
No, you can't play that on the
but
banjo.
it ain't
So
me.
you can't play Danny Boy on the banjo. So I don't think that one's being. Maybe something else. Um.
It
Anyway,
really, I mean, and all joking aside, it really does kind of feel like a new day. It does feel different.
it
Um,
does, but
I've said before that it feels like a weight has been. It feels like a 300-pound orange man has been sitting on my chest for 4 years, and now he has been forcibly removed, and now I can breathe again. So
yeah. I can get with that, but I hope that we keep striving for better because, obviously we went with the best decision and a good politician and all that good stuff. But I still feel like we can do a lot better than the options we've had in the last few years. I don't feel like we've seen anything as different as we did like when Obama first came on. Even if he was cut from the same cloth, it felt different, and it feels like we were like, okay, we got rid of the dictator, but we're back to an old, 75-year-old white guy. With
to be
a blue
fair, I
suit.
mean, not to turn this into meet the
We do every
press,
week, so what's the difference?
but to be fair, um, Biden. I said this the other day, and I'll stick to it. And Biden was not my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth choice to be
Hmm.
president initially to come out of the Democratic primary. But I feel like at this moment right now he might be the perfect guy for it because he's such a transitional figure, and I think that's what we need. I
Yeah,
think we need to transition away from the extremism that Trump brought, and hopefully this is a transition to something uh, a little bit more progressive. That's my hope.
well, most
I
importantly,
feel like Biden is a moderate, the same way Barack Obama was a moderate,
right,
and that's why they got along so well. But he needed Biden to ease people over to him.
right.
Obama, and now I think we're going to need Biden to transition over to something else. Maybe it's a black woman or just a woman in general. But we need Biden to be that transitional figure, and I think he's good at that because he's somebody that everybody in the office respects.
Hmm.
Even if they're gonna treat his presidency like dirt, which a lot of them are, they respect him. So even if it's competitive and nasty in terms of policy,
Hmm.
I expect it'll be civil in terms of personal attacks for the most part, which is what
Which
we did
is
not
a
have
huge leap
the
ahead. I
last four
mean,
years.
that's everything else aside, and I know when I say everything else aside, I'm glossing over some very major issues. One of my biggest problems is just you used to be able to look up and be like, man, I would like my child to be president of the United States. It's a class, it's
Yeah,
the ultimate of class and
of course.
sophistication. And let's not forget the most important thing about Biden. Guy looks damn good in aviators. He can rock a suit in aviators. So, and what good president, I mean, you've got Bill Pullman in Independence Day. You've got Harrison Ford in any one of his movies. They all look good in aviators. Obviously, that's the most important thing. We are going to get
Obviously,
slightly political on a different level today when we talk. Some of the things we got to talk about today. I'm interested to see where our conversation goes on Johnny Depp's departure from Fantastic Beasts and
yeah.
where to find them. We've got The Mandalorian to talk about. We've got reviews for Let Him Go
And
and
two
Proxima.
episodes of The Mandalorian in the bank that we need to talk about.
Yes, yes. So where do you want to start?
Almost completely forgot about this week's episode.
Hmm.
It slipped my mind for a second, and it was like 3 o'clock on Friday morning. And I was like, oh shit,
Hmm.
Mandalorian is on again, so I need to watch it. So we got a lot more stuff to talk about this week than we do movies. Because I don't know what you saw other than
I
Let Him
saw both
Go.
of the things we have queued up.
Okay, so you saw Let Him Go and Proxima.
Yeah, it was a late Friday
Sweet.
night.
Okay, cool. They sent me a really cool swag box for Let Him Go.
Okay,
With
you got to explain this to me because what does a swag box for Let Him Go look like?
oh sure, hold on one second.
All right, yeah,
It's right
let's
here.
figure this out because Let Him Go, for those who don't know, it's a movie that starts out like a drama and turns into almost like a revenge flick. It stars Kevin Costner and Diane Lane,
It stars Ma and Pa Kent.
which it didn't click. I watched this entire movie. It didn't click to me until the next day that Ma and Pa Kent were back together again in this
Here's the
film.
box.
Okay, Let Him Go.
Box of the movie.
That doesn't
Thank you,
seem like an
Focus.
ominous
Thank you,
package to
Focus
arrive on your
Features.
desktop.
Okay, so in the box, we have.
It's our very first unboxing video. This is kind of cool.
Whiskey rocks.
Whiskey rocks, nice.
Yeah. So next time I want to have some whiskey, I can
pop a rock.
These bad boys. A really extremely soft blanket.
I can actually tell how soft that is from over here just by the weave on it.
It's pretty ridiculous.
You gonna do the rest of the show with it draped over you like that?
I imagine it's like the one that he draped over her in that one scene in the movie. Beef jerky.
Beef jerky. Can't go wrong with that.
Beef jerky, yeah. Chalet. It's a place I don't know. Chalet Market of Montana, but it sounds fancy.
Yeah, it sounds much more fancy than the kind I get from Walmart's checkout shelf.
And the book.
Oh, nice. Is script adaptation or novel?
It's the it's the novel. It's the novel.
I love this. Usually around this time of year. I didn't even realize it's already November. It's screener season already. And I have no idea what that's going to look like this year. But one of the things we get every screener season is
Jam also.
Oh God! Now you sold me. Is they'll send us some of the stuff we get. These really really nice hardcover production books that have these super high glossy. We'll have to do a video sometime to show
how many of those
all.
things we're going to get this year.
Yeah, but one of the other things.
I'm very curious because I got this, and I also got a really really nice package from the front of the movie Windwalkers or Wolfwalkers. It's coming out. It's got like all these. It's almost like an art box, but it's got like a lot of art supplies in it, but it's also got food in it too. So I need to like really look at it.
Yeah.
So I'm getting some things swag wise for this award season. They're trying to win when it's over.
Oh, so just let them go. Was this for the release, or was this for awards? You think?
I think these are just for the release, but I think at this point, anything that's for the release is for awards as well.
Fair enough.
The landscape is pretty slim this year, so I imagine that's probably what they're doing. But yeah, so getting some stuff. But in terms of like remember we would always get like the packages of like CDs. Probably
40 loose DVDs sitting in there. Yeah.
Yeah, we've already gotten some of our screeners. Our award screeners are coming in digitally. In fact, most of them are. It seems like. Which sucks. But
I just want to make everybody jealous in the world for a second. The other day we got an email. We've already got access to the Star Wars Holiday Special. How do you like us now? I got that in. Oh, did you not get that too?
No, I had to check my email in a day or two.
Yeah, so Disney Plus sent out a press email for the Holiday Special.
Oh, it's in our Disney Plus screener queue.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
And it's Lego, because the Holiday Special, for anybody that doesn't
put the trailer up on the site.
Yeah. If for anybody that doesn't know, and if you're watching a movie show, I gotta imagine you do know that the Star Wars Holiday Special that came out in 1980 or 1979, I believe, is iconically bad. It gave us Boba Fett, who we'll talk about a little later this morning. But other than that, it was about Chewie going home for like Life Day with his Wookiee family, who we never see again.
It's like the Kashyyyk version of Christmas, basically.
Yeah. And it was really comically bad. It featured really Carrie Fisher just bolted out of her mind on coke and all kinds of crazy stuff. But so everybody wondered if Disney Plus was going to release it. They still haven't done that, but they have come back with a Lego holiday special, kind of to reclaim the name, I guess. So I guess that's a good segue to go right into Mandalorian.
I think it's also a good way to do something like that and not have to worry about bringing back the cast, really, because the voice cast who most of them were not happy with their Star Wars experience in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good way to still use those characters and not have to worry about bringing the people back who didn't like working on Star Wars.
Yeah, so that really killed me.
None of the voice people from Daisy Ridley's not there. There's no John Boyega, Oscar Isaac. They're all the characters being voiced by other people. But there are other people who are there who are like Billy D. Williams is voicing Lando and Anthony Daniels is C-3PO. So some people are there.
Yeah, well, Anthony Daniels, I mean, he's been the flag bearer for Star Wars since, I don't know, he never really stopped. In between 2005 and 2015, we had a 10-year stretch where there's no new Star Wars stuff. But he was still out there. I remember my wife got me tickets one year to Star Wars live orchestra thing, and he was hosting it. You know, so he never really put down the banner and was taking it back and forth.
If you were involved with Star Wars, would you put the banner down, or would you just
who are you talking to? No, I'm not even.
Career, would you just let your careers like, you know what, my career is nothing but Star Wars. Nobody knows me for anything else but this.
Yeah,
it's like you know what, and that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? Say what you will about. I know we always make fun of me about Supernatural, but that's one of the things I always respected about the Supernatural guys. They had the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm a star on a CW show, which means I'm a star now. But if I leave here, the odds of success are very, very small. So I'm just going to stay here for 15 years on this silly show about two brothers hunting ghosts. And that's the same thing.
They're not that talented, so I mean,
they're really not. I mean, Jensen Ackles is. Jared Padalecki is not a good actor.
They're lucky they fell into that show.
Oh Jesus!
Anyway,
you have an uncouth hatred for these boys, the Winchester brothers.
It's not like it was a great show like Charmed or something.
Oh, really?
Nobody thinks fondly of Supernatural the way they think of Charmed.
You know what? The Nickelodeon show Are You Afraid of the Dark had better effects than Charmed did, and the acting.
Here's the difference. Charmed didn't need effects because it had Holly Marie Combs.
Yeah. It had cleavage, just be honest. It should be called cleavage, not Charmed.
It didn't need effects when you had those women on it. I'm sorry.
I'm surprised that
you don't want effects if you got those women on it. You don't. I'm
surprised that by season 7 they weren't just wearing nipple pasties for some witchy reason, because it was so blatant every single time. Alyssa Milano was like, "Hi, I'm here to do spells," and I didn't mind, but still.
That was really good, Rose McGowan up in that joint too. So anyway,
yeah.
All right, let's talk about what we were really supposed to be talking about. Let's talk about the movies first.
Yeah, I went to Mandalorian, but we had already started talking about Let Him Go, which I started talking about. So it's about Diane Lane and Kevin Costner, two parents who lose their son, and they need to basically rescue their grandson from the clutches of a dangerous family living off the grid in Montana was it? In the Dakotas. Yeah. They're all kind of the same thing to me. South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what to expect. It seemed like a drama at first, but Diane Lane's kind of a badass.
She is kind of a badass. I mean, they're kind of a badass couple. It's an interesting turn of phrase, but it's an interesting twist on the narrative because you would think that Kevin Costner's character, who's this ex-sheriff, he clearly has the sort of background that we associate with a Kevin Costner character.
Right.
But he's sort of settled into retirement and of kind of avoiding violence. I think he seems like he's let his life become being her pet bulldog and keeping her out of trouble. It seems like that's like what he's settled his life into, which if your wife is Diane Lane, you'd be perfectly okay with that. You'd be perfectly okay with that.
Yep.
But the movie presents itself like in promos and things like that as a kind of a Taken style revenge movie, but it's really not that. It's more of a drama with some thriller elements to it. And I found myself really liking it. Even though they didn't really flesh out either of their characters. They're the Blackledges, I believe their last name is. The Blackledges. I didn't really flesh them out, but I realized they didn't have to, because when you cast Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, like, it's like the backstory kind of fills itself in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't need to know. Like, I do imagine them as Ma and Pa Kent from Man of Steel. Like, I just kind of do it. I kind of fill it in. Kevin Costner, he has a long history of playing these sorts of aging hero type characters. You know, these guys who've fought for the law for years and have kind of settled into something else.
Yeah.
He's played these guys before, so we don't need them to fill in any backstory for us. It's kind of already baked in.
Yeah.
Which I kind of dug about it, that he didn't waste that kind of time. But there's also this theme that's kind of weaved into the movie, this theme of, you know, America's dream and things that are lost or taken and stuff like that. It's not just the child who is their last soul connection to their dead son, but also like people's heritage and things like that. And you see that in the Native American character played by Boo Boo Stewart, who kind of lives off the grid.
I just can't say his name without laughing.
On his own. Yeah, I know his name's funny, but you know, he's basically had his whole his whole culture, everything about himself stolen from him when he was taken and put in those Native American schools from the 1960s, 50s, 60s. And then you have the Wee Boys, or whatever their names were, which is their
Wee Boy, yeah, Wee Boy, and that's not like a group like we're the Wee Boys, like little boys. Yeah. It's the last name is Weboy.
Wee Boys, who are like this, who are basically like hillbilly Corleones.
Yeah, Jeffrey Donovan, who on the much underrated, what was it called? It's so underrated, I can't remember the name. The show.
Somebody to play somebody who can be like Eddie Haskell. Like he's just like phony charming with a really toothy grin.
Yeah,
is Jeffrey Donovan. He was good in Sicario too, in his small role in that.
What was his show that I can't remember the name of now? I started watching it. It was good.
Oh, the one that was on USA.
Burn Notice. Yeah,
Burn Notice. Yeah.
It was a good show.
Yeah, he was really good in that. But the Wee Boys are about loss as well, and things that are taken away. Except they're the ones who are doing the taking.
Right.
People who have probably spent their family's entire generation thieving from the land and thieving from the country, not really doing much to do anything for anybody else but themselves. So the taking of the child is just another aspect of that. Right. And I think these are really interesting ideas that the movie presents itself. It's not an action movie, so if you go into it expecting an action movie, you're not going to get it.
Yeah,
but
it's not taken.
When violence does happen, violence is brutal and the violence is meaningful.
Yeah,
when it does happen in the movie.
But you know what kind of clicked in my head watching this, especially with Boo Boo Stewart's character Peter, is it's been so long since we've had a movie about the Native American experience in this country after, colonialism. And Kevin Costner brought us one of the last great ones, which was Dances with Wolves, and that was freaking 30 years ago. And isn't it a bit strange in the world we live in now where everybody's a bit more open to representation and righting wrongs and things like that we don't have more films about Native Americans and the fact that they're still, on reservations and it's some of the highest rates of drug addiction, and their schools are crap and all this other stuff that we've done with them. And Boo Boo Stewart, as much as I laugh at his name, other than the Disney stuff he's done, obviously, I've liked the guy every time I see him on screen. I think, if he sees that and gets some kind of producing role going to do some films about the Native American, populace of this country, whether it's now or period.
Why you got to put it all on him? Because he's Native American. You got to put it all on his shoulders.
Yeah,
it's all on him.
He's the only one I know. I don't know any other Native Americans.
Very white of you to expect him to have to represent everybody.
No, white of me would be to think that I should tell the story. If I should tell the story, that would be white of me. I like to do the white thing.
I agree. I like him too. I was trying to think of the other things I've seen in a minute.
Twilight
movie. Huh? He was in a Twilight movie, right?
Yeah, he was in Twilight, and he's done a bunch. I actually know him. I'm not embarrassed to say, but because I do have a 6-year-old daughter.
X-Men?
What?
Was he in an X-Men?
Yeah, he was the Portal guy, wasn't he? Yeah, he was in Days of Future Past. But I know him from all his Disney movies like Zombies and Descendants and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, he was in Tales of Halloween. He was Warpath. That's who he was.
He was Warpath. That's right. It's the reason why I didn't even think about that is because he's one of those actors that I can't get it what his age is.
Yeah, he's 13 or 30 type. Yeah, you don't know.
I can't figure him out. Like I don't know what his age is. So when I'm thinking of him as Warpath, I'm thinking of him as older. I imagined him as younger in this. Yeah, and I imagined him. It seems like to be that way every time I see him. Like I'm not sure what his age is.
Yeah, he could definitely be a buff 18-year-old or a young-looking 40-year-old. You can't tell at all. But yeah, so let him go. I mean, I give it a passing grade. I like Travis said earlier, guys, don't expect Taken. If you're getting that from the trailer, it's not what you're going to get. Look for something. Think of something more thoughtful, something more dramatic. But it does satisfy that violent need that you have. Then it's going to be something for you.
I tweeted about this, and I really like that these sorts of mid-budget dramas are coming back. Because that's what this kind of movie is. 20, 30 years ago, this movie would have been a modest-sized hit movie.
Oh yeah.
With Kevin Costner and Diane Lane in particular in the leads,
Hmm.
it would have been a pretty decent sized hit. But they don't really make movies of this size anymore. They don't do them
Yeah. People
because
forget what movies are included in that group. Field of Dreams is one that would have been included in that group, but Netflix is
you know,
bringing back.
yeah, there's a lot of classic movies that would never get made nowadays,
Yeah.
but or they would just go to streaming. Which is interesting about this because this one's not available on streaming; it's theaters only. So
Hmm.
I don't know if I would tell you to go risk yourself to go see it in the theater, but I would definitely say go check it out when it comes out on digital or something.
That's what I had to do
But
because they still have. Thankfully, I'm still getting at least free press tickets to theaters around me. RC Theaters in Lexington Park down here is open and showing it, so I was able to get in and see it there.
yeah, um, but yeah, this is a good one. I definitely enjoyed it. So
So Proxima is something I had no idea. It wasn't even on my radar really, which is surprising because
hey, you must not read punchdrunkcritics.com.
I do. I just don't read every single thing. And if something doesn't interest me, like
So you're saying Eva Green does
she
not
does.
interest you?
I didn't.
This is
I missed
interesting
it.
news
All
to
right.
me.
No, and that's what I was to say. Is Ava Green is somebody I've watched her career with great interest ever since Casino Royale, and she always seems like she's right on the cusp of breaking into international superstardom. And I guess some people could argue she's already there, but it's just like she goes up, and then cools off, and then goes up and cools off. She never hits that A-list
I
status.
think I want to turn your volume up a little bit, John, but
Okay.
your volume's a little low. I think Ava Green is exactly where she wants to be.
Yeah, I
I
get
think
that
Eva
feeling too.
Green is doing the things that she wants to do. She doesn't make a ton of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Proxima is probably her biggest film in a little while, and she's received acclaim from it. Then the thing that was interesting to me, and I mentioned this on social media too, this
Mm-hmm.
movie debuted at the same time as Lucy in the Sky a couple of years ago. I believe it was at TIFF.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they both played at the same time. Lucy in the Sky got all the attention. This movie kind of sat around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucy in the Sky is a terrible movie, but they both follow similar tracks. They're both about female astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
At a time when those things aren't those kinds of movies aren't really that prevalent, you realize only one of them is going to get a lot of attention. There's not going to be room for two. So Lucy in the Sky got all the attention, had the bigger names, of course, and it sucked. It's a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
If this movie had come out by itself at that time and played at the same time as Lucy in the Sky, we probably would have been talking about Eva Green getting the awards attention that Natalie Portman was supposed to get, but didn't get because she was in a bad movie.
Right.
This is a much better movie than Lucy in the Sky, and Eva Green is much better than Natalie Portman was in that.
Mm-hmm.
It is about a female astronaut, but she's a mother, and she gets the chance of a lifetime. She's going to the space station. Is going to be exploring Mars, but it means leaving her family behind for at least a year,
Mm-hmm.
possibly longer. And she has this really devoted daughter, and she has to leave her with her ex, who at least initially does not seem like he's up for the task. Um, and this movie is really simple. It's directed by Alice Wintercord, and she's I can't remember exactly where she's from, but I believe she's European.
She's French, I believe.
She is French.
Her name is French, at least.
She is French. Yeah, she's French, and she makes these really simple, grounded dramas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. It's basically about her training and all those things that she goes through, and it's about her having to deal with being in an all boys club, of astronauts, because there aren't that many female astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
You get that kind of opportunity, and it's about her trying to cope with having to leave her family behind. It's a really simple film, but I like the way that it addresses something that we see all the time in men's movies with men, because there have been, especially lately, there have been a bunch of movies about male astronauts going into space and bringing their family baggage along with them. There have been a bunch of them lately, but there haven't been a bunch of them about women, and this one is uniquely a female movie from a female perspective. It's not just let's put her in the suit and just keep doing what we would normally do. No, these are issues that you can only do from a female perspective. So she has to deal with the very real physical limitations of what she's going through, because the training is not easy.
Right.
She has to deal with the sexism from her colleagues, and played by particularly Matt Dillon's character. Matt Dillon always plays sort of the sexist douchey American in these sorts of movies because
Yeah.
plus he's good at it. So it deals with very real issues, things that you don't ever have to deal with in a men's movie, which is like, are you a good parent if you leave your kid behind to achieve your dreams? They never pose that in men's movies.
Yeah.
It's only for women, and she has to deal with all that stuff, and I found that to be very fascinating.
Yeah, as far as we've come, with race relations, with not sexual relations. That's not the right word. With feminism and all that stuff. What's that? Gender relations. That's the word I was looking for. See, that's why he's the smart one, folks.
That's why I'm still here.
So yeah, with gender relations, there's still and there is something to it that there's a primal, maternal instinct that women have that men don't have. So to ask a woman, I think, to ask a woman to leave her child for that long is probably, hits a little harder. A lot of men still have that, that separation ability. But that's not even what I thought the most interesting thing about this film was, and what makes it something that we haven't seen. The thing that I liked most about it was the point of view, and that it's a European space film. And space, as far as...
It's shot in real...
in actual European space facilities. And space...
Star City is a real place. Star City is a real place.
Mm-hmm. Space flight, everything. Even though it's the International Space Station, at least in this country, we see space travel as a uniquely American thing. Even though it hasn't been from the start. The whole thing was a space race with the Russians, and they made it to space first. But it's always seemed like a very American thing. And to see not only women getting out there, because For All Mankind, Apple TV Plus or Apple Plus TV, whatever they're calling it, is another show that dealt with females in astronaut school.
So that Netflix series Away with that Hillary Swank.
Yeah, and which didn't do too. I think it was canceled after one season.
It was
right?
canceled after one season. Yeah.
So, but the mix of being able to see the image we have up there right now should look very familiar to you guys. It's the same exact image as Liv Tyler and John McClane. I am blanking on names today. Bruce Willis. How do I forget Bruce Willis' name? It's the same thing, but it's a mom and her daughter. And I don't think it's sexist or anything to say that a mother leaving their children a lot of the times is tougher than a father leaving their children. And to see it from that perspective, and to see what she's weighing that loss, that abandonment against, and going to do this, coupled with the aspect of it that we haven't seen internationally before, is really what made this interesting, if nothing else, for me.
I really like Eva Green in this too. I mean, I talked about before how she's much better than Natalie Portman in it, but I liked how her character. We always perceive Eva Green as very sexy, and she is a very sexy actress, but it's not a sexy role. And it's not like it's deliberate. I mean, she plays a lot of like Ice Queen sort of characters too.
Yeah.
But it's like she's someone who has basically not removed her femininity.
Subdued it a little bit, at least. Subdued.
There's a scene where she talks about wanting to keep her period when most women would not. In that situation, but she wants to keep it. It's not that she removes her femininity. It's just that she knows that she has to play. She can't play it up in this situation. Not around a bunch of men who are going to be judging her. Not around a press that's going to be judging her.
Right.
So she has to kind of play it in like this middle ground where she's either one or the other. She either gives herself over to it completely. There's a scene where she talks about, I'm becoming like this alien person or something like that. She talks about that. She either gives herself over to it completely and becomes a completely different person, or she plays it for femininity, which is inappropriate. And she's kind of in this middle ground, which is really interesting about the entire movie.
Yeah. And that's another point of view.
It's just a really good movie that has a lot of perspectives that we don't normally get. And like I said, the thing for me that I really took to was this idea that she's judged for things that men don't never get judged for.
Yeah, and that is another layer.
It reminds me of the political landscape we have right now, where we have our first woman VP, but she had to deal with them too during the primaries, things like that. And Elizabeth Warren had to deal with it. Questions about your family, as if you can choose one or the other. Like, you can choose going for your dream, or you can choose being at home, being near home.
Yeah,
it's stuff like that. That guys never had to deal with. And I just thought this movie did that really well without really like hammering it at you. It does
Yeah.
a really good job.
Well, I think one of the other layers that was on top of this, and you kind of touched on it with talking about Eva Green and her sexuality. I mean, she has an aura of that sexuality, and that's why she's always cast as like these ice queens, like you said, or these very sexual characters. But it kind of touches one of the last holding, like solidly holding stereotypes, and that's a woman can either be intelligent or she can be beautiful, or she can be attractive. You can't be both of those. And if you're attractive, you can't be smart. And her wrestling with her femininity throughout this is really parting on that layer. So yeah, it's much more than Lucy in the Sky was, I think, and it's much more than most movies of its type are. Period. In the story.
Agreed. So a couple good ones this week.
Yeah.
We got some really interesting stuff that's coming up too, because Hillbilly Elegy comes up next week too, which is going to be interesting. I watched that the other day. My review for that should be up tomorrow. That's coming out. We got Mank coming out. That's David Fincher's movie.
I cannot wait to see that.
I know we should have actually got screeners for that already, but they didn't want to give them to us. At least not us. They gave them to some other people. But we should still get them soon.
Yeah.
There's some interesting stuff coming out. But let's talk about the Mandalorian a little bit.
Mando.
We talked about Boba Fett a little bit already. But we've had the first 2 episodes of the Mandalorian, and I've kind of settled into my groove of going ahead and doing the stupid recaps, interviews, every morning. And I really liked the first episode, the premiere episode.
It dug so deep into its Western roots that they've tried to do with this show. I mean, was all. The only thing you didn't have was a swinging saloon door. I mean, you have Timothy Olyphant playing Cobb Vanth, who... Timothy Olyphant, is there a guy in Hollywood right now with a cooler walk than Timothy Olyphant? I mean, it's almost so cool, it's sloppy.
I mean, between Deadwood and Justified.
Yeah.
Between Deadwood and Justified, he's well practiced at playing lawman.
And Deadwood, and, going all the way back. I mean, so he plays Cobb Vanth, who's essentially the sheriff of this town. In Tatooine, which we've been to a million times, there's 3 main cities. There's Mos Espa, Mos Eisley, which is where Luke was in the very first movie, and then this third place, whose name escapes me at the moment. Big surprise there, but
you're on Tatooine in your background right there too, aren't you?
I am. Well, it's Jabba's palace. That's the third city, I guess you'd say. But and lots of touches to Jabba's palace. We opened the episode seeing Gamorrean guards, who are the guards at the front of Jabba's palace, fighting in like an underground fight club. But essentially, Mando's trying to find other Mandalorians so he can get help bringing the child back to his kind. And what he ends up... He gets a tip that there's Mandalorians out here. He arrives, finds out it's not actually Mandalorian. It's Cobb Vanth wearing found armor. And that found armor is very familiar. Looks like it might have been through the belly of a Sarlacc pit. Obviously, the green and red paint scheme is unmistakable as Boba Fett.
Seeing that armor reminded me how not that impressive that armor looks.
Oh, Mando's armor
the
when it's
the Boba Fett helmet is iconic, of course. But all that stuff looked so.
It's
old.
janky, man. It's thrift store stuff, and you see
this armor is supposed to be really that badass. It
when
look like it.
When you see Boba's armor walking next to Mando, he's got the chrome Beskar all the way down. It doesn't stand a chance at all to it. And to make it even worse, have you ever seen the behind the... I should have put this up on our background, but the behind the scenes shot of the guy who played Boba Fett, who looks like your high school economics teacher. Like, he's got the Boba Fett armor on, he takes it off, and he's just a mousy little dude with a George Costanza haircut and thick glasses. It's like... Nice. It's disturbing.
Did you like this first episode though? I mean, the first episode I liked it because it's using the framework that we've seen a lot in this series, which is Mando shows up in a town that needs help. He needs something from them. There's an exchange. He helps them with something. It's very
Lone Wolf and Cub.
It's very simple, but it's a good way to reestablish what's going on. And it gave us a crate dragon, which I kind of popped for because I just played through both Knights of the Old Republic games, which crate dragons are a factor in both. And I was like, cool, fucking crate dragon, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I really dug that aspect of it. it was a really good, strong episode. And it kind of pushed the child to the background a little bit in the first episode. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's there, but he's not like the driving focus of this episode at all.
Right. He's more of
Which
a.
I kind of appreciated. I have a feeling like they need to keep the child in the background a little bit. Like that's just
Mhm.
my feeling.
Well, that shows the genius of Favreau. I mean, because anybody else in Hollywood, if you have something that's selling as many toys as the child is going to put that thing front and center. It's going to be called the Child Show from now on.
Well,
But
he does that in episode 2, though. In episode 2, it is entirely the child, and the child is.
It's Frog Lady too. Let's not be
the
unfair.
Child is basically, and look, I in my recap and my review of episode 2, which is titled "The Passenger." I said this is probably my least favorite episode of all of them so far, and I still think it is.
Yeah.
And my impressions of season 2 right now are that it's going to live and die by the big reveals.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to live and die by how they handle Ahsoka Tano. It's going to live and die by whatever this Sasha Banks character is. It's going to live and die by what happens with Giancarlo Esposito's character.
And a reveal that we've already got this season. At the end of episode 1. Obviously, the question is, we've got Boba's armor. Where's Boba? And then as the Mandalorian is leaving over a ridge, we see somebody, the back of somebody's head watching him leave, turns around, and it's Tamora Morrison, who played Jango Fett and all the clones in the original, or in the prequel trilogy.
And he's supposed to be playing Boba Fett in this. I wish he was not playing Boba Fett in this. I wish he was just being Captain Rex.
That would be awesome. But
he might still actually play Captain Rex, but we don't know.
So to your point, though, I liked the first episode. Yeah, I don't know, what are your feelings on? Because as long as they have it's a double-edged sword, because I like these one and done episodes as long as they build up to we're assembling the group. Like I was crestfallen last year when Gina Carano showed up for one episode and it felt like we weren't going to see her again. Same thing with Apollo Creed. If he wasn't going to show back up, I was going to be upset. But it does come back around. That being said, I really feel like there's a lot left on the table with a lot of these characters. People are already talking about a Cobb Vanth spinoff. I don't think there's enough there to have that. I think he's a good side character, and I think he needs more screen time. But I certainly agree.
I can totally see a Cobb Vanth mini-series of some kind. I could totally see that.
You think so?
I think that people imagine a mini-series for every character. I mean, there's talk about a Cara Dune spinoff as well. People say that about everything just because Disney has teased everything.
I'll hold out for the Frog Lady spinoff.
But I'm bored of this narrative framework that they're using right now. I'm bored of him showing up at places because the second episode is the same thing.
Yeah.
The second episode is basically the same thing. He needs help from somebody. They need something from him. He'll do it in exchange for it, and that's what they do. And he fights a monster, and that's it. And then he moves on. And I'm tired of seeing that. Because I feel like we've seen it. We saw it a lot in season 1, which it gets a pass for that in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're in season 2, and we had 2 straight episodes of it.
Yeah.
It's not as if the second episode is even bad. It's still good. It's just I'm getting fatigued of seeing the same sort of thing.
Did you ever finish Rebels?
This one was leaned heavily on humor,
mm-hmm.
which I guess I would expect because it's directed by Peyton Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Did Ant-Man and stuff like that. So I expect it to be a little sort of more lean more on humor than anything else, and it does. The child is driving the action through his childish action.
That shit was disturbing. I'm gonna be honest. When you anthropomorphize a frog and you have the child eating that frog's kids, it's a little disturbing. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I was disturbed by how casual it was that he was just popping them in his mouth.
Yeah.
But that there was no reaction about how kind of horrifying it is.
Yeah.
And the mother didn't seem to have that much of a reaction either.
She didn't seem to notice.
Which also bothered me. She did notice at one point because she rests and she like wraps her arms around it, like looking right at him.
Yeah. Well,
she does realize that it's happening, but there's not much of a reaction to the fact that this thing is just popping her kids into his mouth like it ain't nothing. And
not just her kids, the last of her bloodline.
Right, the last of her bloodline. She doesn't seem to be that concerned. I mean, the episode ends literally on him popping another one into his mouth.
Uh-huh.
It's just, and I was like, I don't know how we're supposed to take it. I think that's my thing. Like in terms of tone, am I supposed to take that as seriously as it probably deserves to be.
Mm,
But then again,
yeah,
I also feel like we're not going to see that character again. So I'm like, or should I just kind of leave it alone and be like, whatever?
yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
feel
I
like
think
there's
that's what it
going to be
is.
some sort of payoff to the way that the child is eating everything right now. Like I feel like there's going to be something that comes out of this because the child was eating everything in
Yeah.
this episode.
You can hope so,
And
but I mean, it can also be just another one of those kid cliches. Like kids put everything in their mouth. That's what he's doing.
it
And
totally is.
yeah,
It totally is. Yeah, the child is like nearing terrible twos range or something like that, and it's
right.
just you know being very infantile right now, and they're playing up the infantile aspect, like in terms of like the way the child sounds, the
Hmm.
sounds it's making,
He's
sounding
gibbering
very
more. Yeah.
yeah, sounding much more babyish than it ever has before. So they're
Yep.
playing into that aspect of it. I need to see what happens when it leaves sort of the comfort of this type of episode.
Right.
That's what I need to see for the rest of the season. I don't need to see this anymore. I need to see them doing something else.
Yeah. I do have to give the hair and makeup department for taking Amy Sedaris, who is not an
I'm glad that
unattractive
she's
woman.
in both episodes.
Yeah, yeah,
I
she's
love that character. That character is great.
she's awesome. And I do love that character. Now, did you ever finish Rebels? Did you watch Rebels all the way through?
Oh yeah, I watched all of them.
So that is one thing that I really do like, and it's almost something that they could lean too far into and start to shoot themselves in the foot, but maybe not. And that's reference. You know, the constant referencing to other things. You know, the Star Wars galaxy is huge, but you know there are things that we've seen in other formats that we have only seen there. The ice spiders that are the antagonists for the all of Episode 2. These giant tarantula ice spider looking things that were in Rebels. Yeah, yeah, xenomorphs. Yeah, they're kind of like xenomorphs too. You know, you got that, and then you've got Amy Sedaris' character. Obviously, is a continuing narrative. You've got these little bits and pieces. You know, the whole reason that he's saved in Episode 2 is because of a good thing he did previously. You know, on the prison break episode from season 1. So there is a trailing narrative through all of this stuff, but it's little bits here and there. There's no solid line other than him and the kid and where they're going.
The appearance by the rebels in this episode, I really did like though.
Yeah,
because I feel like we haven't really seen them. Like we're seeing. The thing that I love about this show and that I really like about these first 2 episodes is that it's shown us perspectives of things that we didn't normally get.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first episode, we see the destruction of the Death Star from this little tiny town
Mm-hmm.
that has basically stayed out of the fight.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like what we saw in The Last Jedi, where we got to see the perspective of those who were poor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how the war has affected them. Like we got a taste of that, and that it's kind of a continuation of that, and that's something I really respect. So in the first episode, we see like this from this little mining town, how the war affects them,
Mm-hmm.
and then in this one, we kind of get a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah.
So I like it when they do stuff like that because it shows me a part of Star Wars that it's always hinted at, but that we don't really get.
Yeah. It also hammers home stuff that you'd think would be obvious, but you kind of need it to be hammered home. And that's, you know, for the little guy, for someone that's not named Skywalker, is there a noticeable difference?
These wars being fought for. That's what I mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, is there a noticeable difference?
These wars are going on is for these people, but the movies never show them.
Exactly.
The original trilogy never shows those people.
And you don't know if things are better under the New Republic or not. I mean, you assume they are, but you don't really know. And there's a really subtle way of showing you that. Like Mando's pulled over, I guess you can say, by 2 X-Wings from the New Republic. And whereas it's been established that the TIE fighters will say, pull over and then start shooting, you know, these guys are literally going to like, come on, we don't want to shoot you down, but we're going to have to. You know, you can tell that there's more humanity in it, that it is a better situation for everybody.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So we both liked the first couple episodes of the Mandalorian.
Sounds like it, yeah. Well, not so much the second, I guess.
They need to improve.
One thing I did want to ask you, what would your preference be if you had to choose weekly like they're doing or all in one shot? The weekly releases are killing me, but I know it's going to make me enjoy it for that much longer. Because if you watch it all in one night, you got to wait that much longer until you get the next season.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost rather just have them all.
Yeah.
Because to me, they feel like they're all part of like one giant story anyway.
D's more than most series, yeah.
I'd rather just be able to knock them all out and then like write one thing about the entire season.
Yeah. Well, see, you're looking at it from a writer's perspective, not
rather than 8 or 9 episodes. No, but I think they'd be this. This is one show that'd be better if I could just knock them all out.
Yeah, because and this is really the kind of show that really lends to binge viewing, where a lot of the series that come out now that they've made for binge watching, people, it's not something you want to watch or need to watch like that. But this is the kind of show that I could see people watching for 9 hours straight. But
yeah.
So on to less fun conversations, and I know we're probably just talking about the business aspect, but I kind of feel we need to address the gossipy aspect of this as well. Johnny Depp has been asked to resign from his spot as Gellert Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, something that been stirring for quite some time. Yeah,
it's probably the biggest news of the week in terms of like what's affecting franchises, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp being asked to remove, asked to resign. Let's be honest, he was fired, and they gave him the option of resigning because they didn't want to, in order to help him.
Yeah,
basically is what happened. And I've been saying that this was going to happen for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, if the second movie made $1 billion, I think they would find a way to keep it.
Yeah, it's not like it was a hit.
Right. My thing has always been, and I've been saying it since the movie came out. Actually, since before the movie came out, I said how is the fact that Johnny Depp is persona non grata gonna hurt this movie? That's what I've been saying, and then it did, because the first movie he showed up out of nowhere, so nobody knew that he was in it.
Yeah, it was Colin Farrell before.
Right. Nobody knew he was in it. The movie did well. Second movie, he was heavily promoted, and the movie did $150 million worse. And I was like, that's not a coincidence, y'all. People don't like Johnny Depp. They haven't liked him for a long time, other than Pirates of the Caribbean. But then you throw in the whole domestic abuse thing with Amber Heard, and his public persona is garbage.
Yeah.
And people aren't gonna support it. And sure enough, people didn't support the movie. It was a bad movie too. Like the second one is almost unwatchable.
Yeah.
But it's mainly him that people didn't want to go and pay for. So I've been looking for, like, when are they going to recast that role? Like, when are they going to do it? Like, they're going to find a way, and they'll just make an excuse, and they'll just say, oh well, Grindelwald is just changing his form again, like he did in the first movie. That's what I thought they would do.
I don't know that it's really Johnny Depp though, because I see what you're saying, and it's not a coincidence. It has to have some aspect to it, but also the first one was the first movie off of Harry Potter. They had a lot of buzz to it. People were going that opening weekend because they wanted more Harry Potter, and people were pretty disappointed in Fantastic Beasts. So it's not surprising that its follow up did worse. I'm not saying it helped, but my big thing with this is, I'll preface this by saying in all of the issues in the world, domestic abuse, hitting a woman is something that is completely off the table for me. It's one of the most disgusting things next to hitting a child, in my opinion. But that being said, it feels like he's getting treated a little bit unfairly here, especially when Amber Heard is still working and she's been documented and is on tape also doing the abusing. The sexism that's happening here, where he's losing these big jobs and she's going on, with whatever career she has. It seems a little unfair to me. And you see stuff like one of the pictures I put up in this slideshow shows the reason why, and that's let me see if it's going to come up here. I shouldn't put a slideshow. I should have just played it. But it's essentially one of the, I think it was the Examiner or the Village Voice, maybe one of the two, put up Johnny Depp confirmed wife beater taken off of Fantastic Beasts. And that's not really fair. I mean, number one, I try to do research before I speak out like this. I don't know if there have been other accusations outside of Amber Heard. If there have been, I haven't seen them. They certainly could be, and maybe I'm completely wrong. But in their situation, it seems to be more like two kind of shitty people that really shouldn't have been together and both got violent towards each other.
Well, the problem is he lost the libel suit.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, that's why this is happening now.
Right.
It's because he sued for libel because I can't remember. I don't know if it was the UK Sun. It may have been the UK Sun that called him a wife beater, and he sued them for libel, and he lost because they were able to prove that he was.
Yeah.
So you can't lose a libel suit if they prove it. So I mean, you can't win a libel suit if they prove it. They weren't being libelous.
Yeah.
And that was like the final nail.
Yeah. I get it. It's one of those things I don't think is fair.
When you're asking why Amber Heard is still sticking around, this is part of the reason.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. It sucks. Fantastic Beasts has its own all sorts of problems right now. J.K. Rowling too, who won't shut her own mouth up.
I thought she was like a
saying things.
A flag bearer for the oppressed. I mean, where all of a sudden she's like, I love everybody, but screw these people in particular.
Yeah, you would think. I think she just has woeful understanding of how people are. I think she has like a broad idea of what she thinks people are, but no actual experience with who these people are.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, for all of her rags to riches, I came from the gutter, look where I'm at now, she is completely out of touch with people in general. But
I think that's the biggest thing. She's out of touch, and she doesn't seem to realize she's out of touch.
Yeah.
Which is the worst. So, and she's going to keep talking. As you know how we talk about mansplaining?
Yeah.
She's like doing that version of that with like trans people.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you know?
She's train spotting, if you will.
Exactly. So it's pretty. It sucks for Depp. I don't know where his career rebounds to, because it's not as if he stopped working. He's still made movies.
Yeah.
But honestly, most of them don't get seen anymore. Like, they just don't get seen. He's fallen off the map, and if he's no longer involved with Pirates of the Caribbean, I don't know where he comes back.
Yeah, I mean, it
might be a while. He might have to go away for a while, and then like surprise us with like a role that comes up out of nowhere or something.
Which is basically what happened with Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, he was falling down fast when he became Jack Sparrow. I mean, the Ninth Window or Ninth Circle was his last movie before that, and he had not had a solid hit, and his public image was dropping. But you know, I've always got a soft spot. You know. Personal reasons, but anybody that goes out of their way to help kids in like hospitals and stuff like that, I always got a soft spot for. And every time I read a story about this guy who carries around his Jack Sparrow costume just in case he's at a hospital, just in case some kid wants to see him, you know, it's a very small part of somebody's personality. I understand, and there's a lot of other things that go into it, but I kind of want to root for the guy. And maybe, you know, he is the most out there actor there is, so maybe he'll pull something.
Go out there and help all the kids that he wants.
Which is he can, because he's got more money than God.
Let's see if he does it when he doesn't have Jack Sparrow to do it as.
Yeah, that's fair enough. On to more fun news.
I'm not trying to rain on your impression of the guy, but when stuff like this happens, when people are at their height, which Jack Sparrow was him at the height of his career.
Yeah.
When people are at their height and they go out of their way to help people, I'm always a little skeptical, because I want to see what you do when you're not at your height and when you're.
True, but there are people that are at their the key term in there is go out of their way. There are plenty of people at their height who don't lift a finger for anybody else. So even the fact that somebody's going to go out of their way in any form to help anybody other than themselves, unfortunately, in today's world, to me, that seems like something that sets them apart a little bit. But
he's not going to help anybody. But okay, anyway, let's go. So next,
agree to disagree. I digress.
You already know he's not. He's not going to. Anyway.
Edward Scissorhands is making a comeback. So this,
right, so we're
My Spy,
here, and I actually do have to go soon. So let's talk about the biggest streaming hits of 2020 real fast.
Yep, My Spy, Dave Bautista.
My Spy is number 3 on the list of things. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that the pandemic has been really great for like one group of people,
Yeah.
And that's some streaming subscription services.
Mm-hmm.
Like Netflix, Apple, Amazon, Hulu. It's been really great for them.
Most of them. Quibi, not so much.
Unless you're Quibi, but
yeah.
Quibi was dumb. But anyway, it's been great for them because people have nothing to do but sit at home and look for things to watch.
Right.
They can't go anywhere. And we've talked about it before that Netflix sort of became like the home for summer blockbusters this year because we didn't have blockbusters to go to.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you got your blockbuster fix was from Netflix.
The Old Guard.
Extraction, things like that.
Extraction.
So Now, this sampling of the way this was done, this whole thing, which shows are watched the most, which movies are watched the most. It's a survey of 1,200 U.S. video viewers ages 13 to 64 weekly, and which titles they've watched in the 7 days following their release. That's how this thing was done. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
There's no legit numbers attached to this.
Right. And just if I can interrupt for a second, if you guys want to follow along, or if you want to look at the list, or read up about it separately, it is on punchdrunkcritics.com. Travis posted on November the 5th. So go ahead and check it out. If you go to www.punchdrunkcritics.com and just do a search for streaming or a search for My Spy, Hamilton, any of those shows that are included in the list, it will pop up for you.
So there's some that they're interested. The top two are not interesting at all. So number one is Hamilton, of course.
Obviously,
right?
Yeah.
Hamilton was the biggest thing, like a phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Number two was Borat, subsequent movie film. That's not a surprise either. Both of those are huge, gigantic movies, and fairly recent, especially Borat, which is only a few weeks old. Number three, though, was the one that really struck me, and it was My Spy. My Spy is the number three most watched SVOD release for 2020 so far. My Spy, completely charming film. I really liked it. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because, it's a family-friendly film with a big star, Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's beating stuff like Mulan.
That's where the surprise comes in, yeah.
Yeah, and like Enola Holmes, which has been praised up and down. And The Five Bloods, which has got Oscar aspirations, and Artemis Fowl, which is a movie that Disney put a lot into. It's My Spy is beating all of these.
I mean, The Five Bloods is down at 16 on the list.
When they finally do the sequel, because they're going to, they just will. They're going to look at this and be like, "Well, now we've got our reason."
Well, you know what it is it all comes down to rewatchability. I mean, it really speaks to Hamilton is surprisingly rewatchable for a 3+ hour performance. Borat, this speaks to how many people actually watched it, because if you're looking at these streaming numbers, again, these are with a grain of salt, nobody's watching Borat more than twice. It's not a movie you rewatch over and over again. But My Spy, if there's one thing I've learned in my 6 years as a parent, is that kids do not need something new. They can watch the same shit repeatedly, like literally one after another. And then My Spy is the type of movie that a parent, has no problem sitting down. And then the middle kids, the youngest kids can watch it. The middle, it's a true family film where everybody can watch it. And then when it came out, there weren't a ton. If you look at the surrounding weekends, there wasn't a ton of other movies, and it was right at the height of the quarantine, so people were just watching it over and over. A lot of those are rewatches, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And Phineas and Ferb, the next on the list, speaks to that same phenomenon.
Yeah. It's a pretty extensive list. It goes all the way down to the top 30, and there's some really interesting choices on here. Palm Springs is down to 26. Palm Springs is, I think, one of the 10 best movies of the year. It's fantastic. The Devil All the Time, which has that terrific A-list cast. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things you'll notice from this, too, is that a lot of movies with star power really are attracting people.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what we were talking about with Let Him Go. That movies with star power are kind of making a comeback again.
Well, I think that's streaming as well. Because, think about, like, if somebody's going to spend money and go to a movie theater, they're going to want to know it's a good movie. But if you're sitting on your couch and you see, oh, look, Mark Wahlberg's in this, or, oh, look, Dave Bautista's in this, you're more likely to click. So I think the return of the movie star might be something we see happening with VOD as we keep moving towards that.
Absolutely. So interesting list. You should go and check it out at punchdrunkcritics.com.
Yeah, Trials Chicago 7 made the top 10 as well.
That's another one that's going to be. It's got Oscar hopes too. So.
And I really thought Project Power would have done better. Well, now I'm all kinds of one of the most surprising ones is Holiday, which just came out a week ago. It made the top 30.
Yeah, a lot of people. There's a reason for that. It's
Emma Roberts.
I'll watch anything with Emma Roberts too.
She's grown on me. She's grown on me a lot, and I'm a fan.
She's on the list.
Yeah.
She has made the list. Anyway, it's about time for us to wrap up.
Yeah, man, you got things to do. We've covered everything. We are at 59 minutes and 58 seconds, so we've got. We're done. See you later. So that's been fun. Let's switch over to our closing line here. Again, we are the Punch Drunk Critics. This has been Cinema Royale. You can check us out right there. What the site says, www.punchdrunkcritics.com. We'll be there every day with all the new content that's coming out. Make sure you also follow us on Twitter. The site Twitter handle is PDC Movies. Travis is at Punchy Critic. I am at Punch Drunk John. If you are on Twitch, and we know most of you are,
What was your last tweet?
Happy New Year 2012, I think, was it? I still put it out there.
You could have just said Happy New Year, and it would have been enough.
Well, I had to say 2012 so you know how long it had been.
We're at the end of this year.
I needed you to know how long it had been since I tweeted. Hey, I retweet stuff. On Twitch, Travis is at cinematic_enforcer, so make sure to go and follow him. One thing I need to add to this, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, I hate saying this because I sound like a cliched YouTuber, but please like and subscribe. Like below and subscribe to all of our latest videos. You'll get all the midweek stuff, all the interviews Travis does, everything right to your inbox. So check that out. And if you have any tips or questions, if you want to try your hand at writing for us, if you know something about the industry that you want to get out there, anything at all, if you just want to tell me I suck, info@punchdrunkcritics.com is the email address. Please shoot us an email anytime.
You know what? I hate to end on a sad note.
Oh, shit. What happened?
Alex Trebek just passed away.
Oh, Jesus. Are you serious?
Yeah, just now.
We got to go back to the 2-shot for that. Well, I thought he was getting better.
I don't know. I just read it just now, so.
You know, 2020, we couldn't have
sad way to end
fucking
the show,
week
but,
of good news. We had to have good news followed by horrible news. That sucks.
Sad way to go.
No.
All right.
All right, guys.
Check us out.
Until next week, we're out of here. We are the Punch Drunk Critics, and we are gone.
Later.